Hello and welcome to the lecture on Unit 1 Business Environment and International Business. Today we are going to discuss about theories of international trade, government intervention in international trade, tariff and non-tariff barriers, and India's foreign trade policy. Also at the end, we are going to discuss previous year MCQs related to this topic, international trade. Let's start with the meaning of international trade. International trade refers to the exchange of goods and services and resources across national boundaries. It also involves the transactions in multiple currencies. Let's start with the complexities involved in international trade. Complexities means difficulties in international trade. First point, heterogeneity of customers and currencies. As there are multiple countries involved, there is difference in currencies and different countries have different customs and cultures. So there is a difference in buying behavior of each customers. Next, difference in legal system. Each and every country has its own legal system. So product allowed in one country may not be allowed in another country. For example, medicine, energy drink, etc. For example, McDonald's and Domino's are not allowed to sell beef products in India due to cultural environment. Next, documentation. Different countries have different documentation requirement for international trade. Next, restriction on mobility of goods and services by way of increasing tariff and non-tariff barriers. Next topic, arguments in favor of international trade, or we can say advantages of international trade. First point, prevents price fall. It may, in case of overproduction, supply increases and demand remains constant, so there will be price fall. If supply increases and demand will be constant, then there will be fall in price. To solve this problem, the extra production, that part of production which are excess, can be sold outside the country. It means we can export that extra production, and more export means more profit. Even more production require more employment generation, so there will be more GDP and ultimately it will help to achieve economic growth. And even if there is a price fall in domestic market, then it can be set off, the loss can be set off from profit of another market. Next, cheap raw material. More production requires more raw material. So raw material will be available at cheaper rate. Next, economic efficiency. If there is more production, then cost of production will be less. Next, high standard of living. More production requires more employment generation, and if there is more employment generation, then per capita income and overall national income will be more. If national income is more, then standard of living can be increased. Next, specialization. If company is manufacturing single line of production, then it can achieve specialization. It means there will be more production at cheaper rate. Cost of production will be lower, and even more production means more quantity, and specialization means that business will achieve more quality also. Next, reduction in monopoly in domestic market. International opens doors for competitors, so there will be increase in competition and reduction in monopoly. Next, strengthens bond between different countries. For example, India has provided services to neighboring countries during natural calamities. Let's discuss the arguments against international trade. It means disadvantages of international trade. Some critics argued that there are disadvantages of international trade. Let's discuss what are the disadvantages. First point is severe competition. Severe competition in domestic market, due to which small scale business cannot survive. For example, BPL, that SIM card company, Next, exhaustion of resources. These resources are natural resources to earn more profit. There will be wastage of resources. Next, threat to domestic market. Due to international competition, the small scale business cannot survive. For example, when Amazon started its business in India, some local retail business could not survive. Next, welfare may be ignored. Due to technology, some unskilled workers may lose their job. Next, loss of cultural identity. To some extent, India has started adopting Western cultures in terms of food consumptions and dressings, etc. Next, dumping poor quality products. Best example is Chinese mobile phones. During 2005 to 2015, the Chinese mobile phones were dumped into Indian market. This dumping means introduction of new products at cheaper rate, low quality of goods at low price. Next, demand for unskilled labor. Due to new technologies and machineries, some unskilled or semi-skilled workers may lose their job. Let's discuss some theories of international trade. First, mercantilism theory. It was introduced during 16th century and it is the oldest theory. Then, absolute advantage theory. It was introduced in the year 1776 by Adam Smith. Then, comparative cost advantage theory was introduced by David Ricardo in the year 1870. Next, factor endowment theory was introduced in the year 1990 by Elie Heckscher and it was further extended in the year 1930 by Olin, Bertil. So it is called as Heckscher-Olin theory or factor endowment theory. And last, new trade theory was introduced by Paul Krugman in the year 1980. So we are going to discuss in detail the international trade theories. Let's start with the first theory, mercantile theory. It is also called as mercantilism. It was introduced in the 16th century. This theory is based on Europe's great power. According to this theory, a country can become wealthy if it accumulates gold and if it increases the exports and restricts import. Imports can be restricted by increasing the trade barriers. And economists says that international trade is a zero-sum game. It means profit of one country is equal to loss of another country. But Adam Smith argued that international trade is not a zero-sum game. Both countries can be in benefit. So he introduced advantage theory. In the year 1776, he wrote a book, The Wealth of Nation. So according to this theory, both the countries can be in benefit if it produces and exports the goods in which it is efficient. Efficient means less cost of production and more quality and more quantity goods. It means there is less wastage. So this is the meaning of efficiency. Whenever I use the word efficiency, remember more quantity production, more quality at cheaper rate, and there will be less wastages. So Adam Smith said that both the countries can be in benefit if both the countries produce and export to another country that goods in which it is efficient. In other words, exchange of goods and services can take place only if each country produces one commodity at absolutely lower cost of production than other country. This theory involves two countries and two commodities. That's why it is called as 2 by 2 model. two countries and two commodities. For example, there are two countries involved, A and country B. If country A produces wheat 6 bushels per hour and B country produces wheat at 1 bushels per hour, A country produces cotton at 4 bales per hour and B country produces cotton at 5 bales per hour. So country A is in absolute advantage in producing wheat because it takes less time and produces more quantity. It produces 6 bushels per hour, and country B, on the contrary, it is in absolute advantage in producing cotton because it produces more quantity than country A, that is 5 bales per hour. So country A should produce wheat because it has absolute advantage in producing wheat, and country B should produce cotton because it has absolute advantage in producing cotton. So to conclude, we can say country A should produce and export wheat to country B, and country B should produce cotton and export to country A. In this theory, we have taken example where two different countries are there, two different commodities are there, and both the countries are efficient in producing different commodities. Country A is expert in producing wheat, country B is expert in producing cotton. But what if one country is in absolute advantage in producing both the commodities? So solution is given by David Ricardo in his theory, Comparative Cost Advantage Theory. In the year 1870, David Ricardo wrote a book called The Principles in Political Economy and Taxation. He said that even if one country is specialized in producing both the commodities, still international trade is possible. Let's take an example and understand how it is possible. So country A and country B is given. Country A produces 6 bushels per hour of wheat and country B produces 1 bushels per hour of wheat. Similarly, country A produces 4 bales per hour of cotton and country B produces only 2 bales per hour of cotton. So in this case, as compared to country B, A produces more quantity of both the commodities. So David Ricardo said that still international trade between both the countries is possible. So country B will produce and export that commodity in which it has absolute disadvantage. Now what is absolute disadvantage? Difference between production by country A and production by country B. For example, if country A produces 6 bushels per hour of wheat and B produces 1 bushels per hour of wheat, then absolute advantage for wheat will be 5 bushels per hour. 6 minus 1 equals to 5. Similarly, country A produces 4 bales per hour of cotton and country B produces 2 bales per hour of cotton. So absolute disadvantage for country B will be 2. 4 minus 2 equals to 2. So country B has least absolute disadvantage in producing cotton. So country B will produce cotton and export to A, and country B will import wheat from country A. So David Ricardo said that even if one country is specialized in producing both the commodities, still international trade between both the countries is possible. But again, some critics argued that this theory has some limitations because this theory does not talk about all the factors of production. This theory talks about only one factor of production, that is labor, and does not talk about any other factor of production such as capital. So solution is given by factor endowment theory. This theory is also called as modern trade theory. It was developed in the year 1919 by Elie Escher, and it was further extended in the year 1933 by his student Olin. So this is why it is also called as Heckscher-Olin theory or HO theory. It was developed by Elie Escher and his student Bertil Olin. This theory is called as 2 by 2 by 2 model because it includes two countries, two commodities, and two factor of production. So it is 2 by 2 by 2 model. Remember, very important for exam point of view, factor endowment theory is also called as modern trade theory. It is also called as HO theory, and this theory is 2 by 2 by 2 model. Because earlier both the theories, absolute advantage theory and comparative cost advantage theory, was 2 by 2 model. This theory is 2 by 2 by 2 model because it consists of two countries, two commodities, and two factors of production. What are those factors of production? Labor and capital. According to this theory, the nation will produce and export those commodities in which production requires nature's abundant resources and cheaper cost of production. Abundant resources means fullest capacity, available in the fullest capacity. So the country will produce and export those commodity in which production requires nature's abundant resources and cheapest cost of production, and imports the scarce and expensive factor of production. According to this theory, a country will produce and export those goods and services which it can produce more efficiently and import other goods and services. So what is the meaning of factor endowment? It depends on all factors of production like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. And a country with large factor endowment are financially better than country with less factor endowment. For example, India is a labor abundant country. China is a labor abundant country. USA is a capital abundant country. Capital means technology. Capital abundant country. Example, there are two commodities, clothes and car. Clothes can be manufactured by labor intensive method and car can be manufactured by capital intensive method. So, clothes require more labor and less capital, whereas car requires more capital and less labor work. And there are two countries, USA and India. In USA, there are less labor available and more capital available. USA is a capital abundant country. So less labor and more of capital available. India is labor abundant country. It means India has more quantity of labor and less of capital. So we can say USA is a capital rich country and India is a labor abundant country. So USA will produce and export capital intensive goods to India and import labor intensive goods from India. Similarly, India will produce and export labor intensive goods to USA and imports capital intensive goods from USA. So to conclude, the country which is abundant in resources will produce those goods and export and import other goods in which it is scarce. There are two theorems, HO theorem and factor price equilibrium theorem. HO theorem, Heckscher-Olin theorem says that India will produce and export labor intensive goods and USA will produce and export capital intensive goods. And factor price equilibrium theorem says that in USA less laborers are available, so there will be more wage rate, and in India less technology is available, so it will be more expensive. Let's check out how. For example, if USA produces cloth, it requires 2 unit of labor and 1 unit of capital. and if it produces car, then it requires 1 unit of labor and 2 unit of capital. So in total, 3 labors and 3 capitals are required. But as we know that USA is a capital abundant country and labor scarce country, so rather than producing cloth and car both commodities, USA will produce 2 commodities of car. So it will require 1 labor plus 2 capital and 1 labor plus 2 capital. In total, 2 labors and 4 unit of capital is required. So earlier USA was having 3 labor and 3 capital. Now it requires 2 labors and 4 capital. It means when it was having 3 labors, now it requires 2 labors. So 1 labor is extra available with USA. Similarly, earlier there were 3 unit of capital and now it requires 4 unit of capital. So 1 unit of capital is in shortage. So if it is having 1 labor extra, it means there is more supply of labor available, then it will reduce wage rate. Similarly, if capital is in shortage, so less supply of capital will create demand and ultimately it will be expensive. It will increase the price. Let's take another example of India. If in India it requires 2 labor and 1 capital in producing cloth, and if it produces car, it requires 1 labor and 2 unit of capital. So in total, we require 3 labor and 3 capital. But India is a labor abundant country, so India should produce cloth and not to produce car. So it will require 2 labor and 1 capital. In total, it will require 4 labor and 2 unit of capital. Earlier we were having 3 unit of labor. Now we require 4 unit of labor. So we are in 1 labor shortage. Similarly, earlier we were having 3 unit of capital. Now we require only 2 unit of capital. It means we are having 1 unit of capital extra. So if laborers are in shortage, if there is less labors available, then it will increase wage rate. And similarly, if there is 1 capital extra with us, it means there is more supply, then it will become less expensive, or we can say the price of capital will fall. So now let's check how we can gain factor price equilibrium. For example, in USA, wage rate are high and in India, wage rate is low. So due to extra labor available with USA, it will reduce the wage rate, and in India, due to less supply of labor, it means there is a shortage of labor, it will increase wage rate. So ultimately, it will be in equilibrium. This is called factor price equilibrium theorem. Let's take another example of capital. USA is capital abundant country, so technologies are available at cheaper rate in USA, and in India, due to scarcity of technology, the capital will be expensive. The capital or technology will be expensive. So in case of USA, if there is 1 unit of capital in shortage, so shortage will create demand and there will be increase in price. So the price of capital in USA will increase And in case of India, due to extra availability of capital, due to extra availability of capital, that is increase in supply, it will be available at cheaper rate. So in India, the capital will be available at cheaper rate. The rate of capital will come down. So it will be less expensive. So this will also be in equilibrium. This is how central economic problem of every country can be solved. This is called as factor price equilibrium theorem. Now let's discuss new trade theory. New trade theory was provided by Paul Krugman in the year 1970s in his book Intra-Industry Specialization and the Gain from Trade. So according to this theory, it says that even if India is a labor abundant country, it can produce and export labor intensive goods, but still it can import labor intensive goods too. For example, India can produce car, but still it can import luxury car from another country. Similarly, India can produce mobile phone also, but still it can import from another country. Let's discuss some advantages of new trade theory. First point, economies of scale. Economies of scale can be achieved by producing more. If there is more production, we can export more quantity. If we export more, then there will be more profit. It is called as network effect. Remember, very important for exam point of view, network effect or bandwagon effect. It means value of goods increases when users increases. For example, WhatsApp. And next is first mover advantage. First mover means taking proactive step. A firm that establishes first mover advantage in production of new product may later dominate the global trade in that product. So we have discussed five different international trade theories. International trade theories. First, mercantilism. It was introduced in 16th century and it is the oldest theory. Then absolute advantage theory was introduced in the year 1776 by Adam Smith. Then comparative cost advantage theory was introduced in the year 1870 by David Ricardo. Factor endowment theory was introduced in the year 1919 by Elie Heckscher and further it was extended in the year 1933 by Olin. Later, new trade theory was introduced in the year 1980 by Paul Krugman. So these are the five international trade theories, very important for exam point of view. And remember name of the theories, year of the theory, who has introduced which theory, and who wrote which book. So here we have completed international trade theories. Let's start with the MCQs of international trade theories. The theory of comparative advantage is propounded by. The comparative cost advantage theory was provided by David Ricardo. B is correct answer. Next, the theory of comparative advantage assumes single sector of production, that is land, labor, capital, or all of the above. That is labor. Correct answer is labor. Both the international theories, in absolute advantage theory and comparative cost advantage theory, both theories considers 2 by 2 model. It means two countries, two commodities, and one factor of production, that is labor. Remember, only factor endowment theory is a 2 by 2 by 2 model, which says that which assumes there are two countries, two commodities, and two factors of production, such as labor and capital. So, which theory, the theory of comparative advantage assumes that single factor of production. So, the theory of comparative advantage assumes single factor of production, that is labor. Correct answer is B. What are the assumptions of Hexer-Ohlin model? No obstruction to trade. Commodities and sectors are perfectly competitive. Both countries operate at same level of efficiency, or all of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Next, who has shown how international trade leads to equalization of factor prices? So as we know that HO theory says that there is two theorem, HO theorem and factor price equilibrium theorem. So equalization of factor prices is covered by HO theory, and the author is Bertile-Ohlin. Next, the comparative cost advantage theory of international trade was developed by David Ricardo. Correct answer is A. Next, the trade theory of absolute advantage was developed by Adam Smith. Correct answer is C. The theory of reciprocal demand is developed by, correct answer is B. John Mill. Next, factor endowment theory of international trade was propounded by, factor and endowment is given by Heckscher-Ohlin. Correct answer is B. Heckscher-Ohlin theory explains international trade in terms of demand differences in factor endowment, difference in labor productivity, or none of the above. Correct answer is differences in factor endowment. That's why it is called as factor endowment theory. Important factors considered in international product life cycle theory are technological innovation, market structure, both A and B, or none of the above. So correct answer is C, both A and B. Next, theories of international trade can be broadly grouped into classical theory, modern theory, both or none. Correct answer is C, both classical theory and modern theory. Who was shown how international trade leads to equalization of factor prices? We already know that it is Heckscher-Ohlin theory or factor endowment theory. Correct answer is B. Next, the purpose of protectionism theory is to protect domestic industry from foreign competitor, foreign from foreign competitor, domestic export from high production cost, or foreign and domestic firms from labor union. Correct answer is A. Protectionism says that we need to protect our domestic industries from the foreign giants. So correct answer is A. These two questions we will discuss after studying quota, tariff barrier, non-tariff barrier, etc. According to which theory, one country may be more efficient in producing particular goods than another country, and that another country may be capable of producing some other goods more efficiently than first one. This is comparative cost advantage theory. Correct answer is A. More efficiently means less time and more quantity production. So correct answer is A. Comparative cost advantage theory. Next, which theory explores the possibility of two nations operating at same level of efficiency? It is given by Excher-Olin theory, HO theory, factor endowment theory, which assumes that both the countries have same level of efficiency. Next, which of the following pair are correct? Countries should export more than they import as per the theory of mercantilism. Theory of comparative advantage is propounded by Adam Smith. Both or none of the above. Which of the following statement is correct? So, mercantilism theory says that a company can become wealthy if it accumulates gold and export more, import less. So, the country should export more than they import is correct answer. A is correct. Theory of comparative advantage was given by David Ricardo and Adam Smith has given absolute cost advantage theory. So B is wrong answer. Which is correct answer? Option A is correct. Who has demonstrated how prosperity of one country brings prosperity to other countries participating in international trade? Keynes, Adam Smith, Olin, or none of these? Correct answer is B. Which of the following statement is correct? Mercantilism supports autarky. Mercantilism originated in Britain. Mercantilism was based on ideology of globalization, or all of the above are correct. So let's check. Mercantilism supported autarky is correct. A is correct because autarky is a characteristic of self-sufficiency. Next, mercantilism originated in Britain. Wrong. It was originated in Europe. Mercantilism was based on ideology of globalization. False, because mercantilism says that only increase your export and restrict import. You should accumulate only gold. So C is also not correct. A option is correct answer. Next, match the following. The theory of reciprocal demand was given by John Mill. The theory of absolute advantage was given by Adam Smith. Theory of comparative cost advantage theory given by David Ricardo. And product life cycle theory of trade was given by Raymond. So these are the correct pair. Next, list 1 theories of international trade and list 2 features. First question, theory of mercantilism. It says that a country should accumulate gold to become wealthy. So correct answer is 4. It attributes and measures the wealth of nation by the size of its accumulated treasure. Remember, accumulated treasures is a feature. Don't get confused by wealth of nation. Wealth of nation is a book written by Adam Smith, but here it is talking about the features of theory. So, theory of mercantilism, it says that countries should accumulate gold to become wealthy. Next, theory of theory of absolute advantage. It refers to the ability of country to produce a good more. Correct answer is 3. The theory of comparative cost. What country, what each country will export and what it will import is determined by comparative difference in labor cost. Point number 2 is correct answer. And D, theory of reciprocal demand. Reciprocal demand theory was given by John Mill. So correct answer is 1. 4, 3, 2, 1 is correct sequence. And the last question, list 1 and list 2. Adam Smith has given absolute advantage theory 3. David Ricardo has given comparative cost advantage theory. 4. Olin has given factor endowment theory, and I.B. Kravis has given availability. So correct sequence is 3, 4, 2, 1.